Hello, humans and other species. I'm Batsy, and today it's all about workstations. I'm super excited for it. I have been working over the weekend on a design for a workstation, and I can't wait to get started with it. First, look at this mess. This is not a base. This is an excuse for sadness. There are random create leftovers that don't do anything at all anymore. And the rest isn't any better. It's just a pile of random barrels that we somehow call home. This can't be. We need to start doing something about it. We need a— Ooh, there is mail. Hold that thought for a second. Let's check this out. A gift for the Queen of Bats. Wait, that's me. I'm the Queen of Bats. Let's see. There is a smithing template. Wild armor trim, it says. I'm not sure which one is this. But that's nice. Maybe we can go looking all fashionable later on. There's some quartz too. That's always good, of course. We'll be making tons of redstone components soon. Oh, it's the cat disc. That's a nice one, I like it. And some nice bat armor. I need to figure out what to do with the bats. We tested some stuff out a couple of episodes ago, but haven't continued on it yet. The industrial area is surely taking a lot of time. What does this one say? Even more bat stuff. It's almost as if they got together to name the packages. Ooh, these are new clothes. That's so cool. Looting and aura of luck. That sounds pretty nice, but I thought the luck effect does literally nothing, does it not? Mummy bandages. Okay, this one reads a bit broken for combat, no? Weakness, slowness, and wither on every hit the bat deals. That's just nasty stuff. These new clothes are really cool though, I like it. We will have to do some stuff with the bats soon. I'm curious about that luck effect. I thought it was just the meme effect that you can get with a command, but it does nothing at all. I'm quite curious about it indeed. Anyway, I'm just getting distracted with shiny stuff. Look at this base, look at it. We cannot be living here without even a roof or walls. Completely unacceptable. But in order to build stuff out, we need a solid workstation. We need a place to craft and process materials, and most importantly, a place with some decent level of storage. We cannot be tackling big projects without a nice workstation to back us up. This is what we have going on right now. Some wacky assortment of machines, with the saddest pile of random barrels with no purpose. But that's the only bad thing from this entire place. The rest looks so cool. We need a well-thought workstation to go with it, and more importantly, so I don't go insane crafting and grinding endless materials between episodes. Which reminds me, we still need to make a chunk loader for the industrial district. I did crafted the respawn anchor because I had the materials in hand, but haven't paid too much attention at what else it needs. Ooh, this is actually decently cheap though. We could make one right now. I mean, I'm pretty sure we have all of the materials for this. Let's just go craft one. I mean, right this second. Let's go make one. And no, I'm not procrastinating. Well, I guess technically I am, but the state of these cables is a mess. Look at those andesite alloys just looping around the chutes. Every time I load the farm, it causes more weird stuff. I really need to keep this thing active. Every time I fix all of the issues, I just reload the chunk the next day and it's back to being a mess. So back to the recipe. We need some glass of any kind. Brass casings, respawn anchor, a shaft, and some precision mechanisms. That seems easy enough. Let's get to it. I did crafted the respawn anchor the other day in preparation for this. But first we need to get all of those mechanical crafters in place. Which is not that big of a deal, just gotta follow the shape. And apparently place it on the wrong block. That's a great start. Then we place the anchor in the middle of it. Glass all around the top part, if I can even reach there. And a shaft at the bottom. We strip some of the logs and make casings out of them. Then place them on the corners. And finally, we spend about 10 to 20 hours cycling around cogs and iron to eventually get some precision mechanisms. So much fun. And we place the last items in the middle. Yes, look at it go. I can't tell if that kind of crafts are interesting to make or just become a checklist of items. But regardless, we need to find ourselves a gas to put in here. And since we are going to be using the bat flying machine, This is the best chance to try out a little bit of code that 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬 made for the server to use with 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬. In theory, we should be able to pick those immersive aircrafts with the wrench. And sure enough, it works perfectly. The alternative is to whack the machine 1,000 times until it just breaks, which isn't great obviously. With the wrench is so much better. I will leave the code on screen in case someone is interested in using the same thing, and of course, keep in mind that this is used with 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬. To my understanding of ghasts, which is close to 0, we just need a big open area. I mean, they have quite big heads. I imagine they won't be spawning on a small tunnel. But I wonder if they had more chances of spawning on different biomes. I don't know why. The Soul Sand Valley comes to mind. Is that biome any special in terms of spawns? Well, I guess other than it spawns skellies, of course. Ooh, we have one. Okay, if you keep running away, this isn't going to work. This is harder than I thought it was going to be. This bat flying machine is so slow. There we go. That wasn't too bad. Now to figure out how this thing works. And to my understanding of chunk loaders, which is also 0, we just need to feed it some power. So I guess now we just right-click? Sure enough, it's just like a create block. It does say it's only consuming 4K stress units though. Surely that's not right. What if we move it to 3 chunks? It still says 4K. Alright, we are consuming about 110,000 units. So if we move it to 1 chunk, it still says 4K. And it's consuming the exact same. So everything consumes 4K or what? I guess this is just a setting, and it doesn't make it consume more. But it's still a bummer it consumes so little. Chunk loading at pretty much free price. I'm going to adjust the config file really quick, see if we can get a more reasonable value. Let's see, how about now? 24,000. That's not that much bigger. It was at 16x and I raised it to 96x, but this still feels too cheap to be honest. Sure enough, it does display the 96x that we just added. I guess I'm going to crank it up further. I want this to be a costly investment, not just free chunk loading for everyone. 131,000 units, that's much more like it. I ended up cranking it all the way up to 512x, and I think this just makes so much more sense. It requires one full T9 steam engine to run, and that to me feels reasonable. Obviously, I want people to chunk load their industrial areas, just not for literal free so people can have 20 of these things running for no reason. Now we can finally fix the silliness of this farm while being sure that the same problems won't happen. Well, so long as the server doesn't crash, I guess, but that's a problem for future Batsy. And sure enough, look at these chutes, completely bugged out. There is obviously a good chunk of cobble in the tank, so why are these chutes not having any cobble? Because of black magic probably. Time to remove all of the connectors. And then put them all back in place. Good thing the bat magic always beats the black magic. Now they're working properly. Now that the water tank is washing gravel again. We still have the issue of weird priorities. Because all of the iron is going to this section, and it's leaving none for the andesite. It's quite a bummer. Alright, I guess I'm completely blind. There is literally a priority setting right here. I mean, I guess it makes sense that a bat is kinda blind, but still. How I have never seen this thing before. Am I just that silly? Don't answer that. I think I'm going to try setting 2 of them to high and see how much that is taking away from the iron blocks. I'm trying to look at both presses to see if they work at roughly the same times. I mean, we established I have such a good sight, I'm sure I will be able to tell. Well, to me it looks like andesite is mildly faster than iron. So that's pretty much splitting the farm between them, almost evenly. And with that concludes the procrastinating section with Batsy, but also kind of fixing several things I should have done between episodes. But I was too busy to do because I'm addicted to the new little Glade game. Yeah, it's kind of a long title. But anyway, it is time to finally dip our toes on the wonderful world of workstation creation situation. Thingy.
Some days later.
It took me some time to get everything ready, but we are good to start the project. You might notice the hole behind me, where the old wacky workstation used to be. I made a design to place the workstation underground, for various reasons that will be more obvious later, but also because I just thought was a cool change. And to the observant eye, you might have noticed that I'm also using the extendo grip again. I was moving all of the stuff that I had on the old workstation and found it laying around between a bunch of junk. I also realized why I always throw it away after a bit. If we disable my UI really quickly, or maybe not quickly, this takes ages. See, the Extendo grip uses so much of the screen, way too much. I adjusted the translation on my resource pack to be closer to the character, so it's substantially less obnoxious. I think now it should be less bothering to use it, but we will see in a few days if I have thrown it away again. Now yes, there is a hole to be filled with a workstation, so let's get ready for it. I have prepared a few barrels with a ton of materials. Well, not many quantities, but a lot of various items anyway. I'm also using a Canon to check the material list. It's honestly really handy. Oh, looks like the schematic bugged out a bit. Hold on. Yeah, this is quite bugged. Alright, fixed, and I think I nailed the position too. So as I was about to say, we won't be using the Canon. It's just so I remember the general area of where each thing goes. There are a lot of different components to it, and I might not remember everything. Also, the Canon would give me a 1-minute time lapse and would hardly explain any of this mess. There is also the colored bits. This is the way to go up and down. I have set some fans for quick transport, and I think it's going to come in real handy for the station. For now, let's grab some of the materials and let's get started on this thing. I think the best idea is to start with the floors and the encased fans, so we have a way to go in and out as we build. And we also going to need this flying thingy for the time being. Now that I'm editing the first small replay, I realized that the schematic is still visible in here, which is not ideal at all, for obvious reasons. But you all will have to bear with me for a little bit. As for the build goes, my hope is that once we have the floors and the encased fans in place, it should be easy enough to walk around and build everything else. This is quite a narrow space, and if we need to rely on the flying thingy, it's going to be a nightmare. But as a side note, so far the Extendo grip feels so much better to use. It's still visible, but now it's not as obnoxious and as distracting as it was before, and it barely covers the field of view, just a bit on the corner of the eye. I think this is going to be a really nice fix, to be honest. I will be leaving a little pack just with this fix on my Ko-fi page in case anyone wants to use it too. I find it quite an improvement. This is quite a mess to look at, but I will try to find a solution for the next replay. For now, I want to bring power to the workstation so we can connect the fans. Originally, I marked the power source on this corner, but it's on a bit of an awkward position. I think it will be easier to just bring it from the side. I can probably attach it to that small cogwheel. In case things spin in the wrong direction, I can always add a cogwheel or something in between. At the end, I'm using the good old Lightomatica. The schematic itself is as bright as before, but at least there are no more flashing lights to make us all blind. Hopefully that won't mess up the next replay, but we will have to see. For now, let's connect the first encased fans. This is our entry point, which I think it's close enough to the cogwheel we saw. Yeah, no kidding, it's right where the cogwheel is. We could break the glass and extend a belt downwards or something. Oh, bummer, it's right where the glass is. A belt in the middle of the glass might look a bit weird, no? Tell you what, let's just use a chain drive then. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad. I think this will do. The other good thing about Lightomatica is that we can disable the overlay at any moment. With the schematics is a bit more tricky. Sometimes it doesn't hide when you remove the schematic paper from your hotbar. I have used Lightomatica in the past a lot, but never for a create build. I mostly use Lightomatica for terraforming and stuff like that. It's kind of fun though, following along the creative design. Okay, I think that's already our encased fan connection. This corner is red, so in theory, this should be going downwards. Sure enough, it's going down. That's awesome. Of course we can't test it from here. Ideally, we want to connect one to go up too. Hopefully there is one that doesn't cross too many machines. Okay, yeah, this one is pretty good. It doesn't have too much in between. I'm trying to think about what I could be explaining, but to be honest, we kinda are just dropping shafts around. I'm not sure anyone needs to know how a shaft or a cogwheel works. I guess I could explain the big cogwheels. The reason we are using these is because the entire schematic runs at 256 RPM, but we need the fans to run at half speed, so it doesn't shoot us to orbit. The big wheel is always connected to a small one in order to half the speed. And in the cases that we need to connect other things to the same big cogwheel, then it's as simple as to connect them with a small one that doubles the speed again. It's one of those small logistic details that are often not really used. It's rare that we need various speeds on a farm, and usually speed controllers are a better solution. The weirdest part about placing all of this before anything else is that we are essentially connecting everything up before we even place that everything. I think this will be the first time I lay down shafts and connections without having anything to connect yet. It's like placing the redstone dust, but there is no redstone to connect with said dust. But a bit of random rambling later, this corner should be good to go. It works. Awesome. And this is why we're running the fans at half speed. 128 RPM happens to be the perfect speed for the height we have going on. I love the system. It feels so smooth. And I reckon that if I get feather falling, I could even jump down directly. Might have to check on that later on. This will be the next section we make. This is the most conventional stuff that is usually part of a workstation. And it's many things that nicely fit in a row, which is also really convenient. This part in particular that works with encased fans was actually made by Dam. They showed me this idea a while back, and I honestly think it's one of the best ways to handle the items. The issue with the bulk processes is that the section to process the items can be done super compact, but moving the items around tends to be a whole lot more tedious. I even showed on my first episode the smallest way to have 4 depots processing all 4 things, but it's what I'm saying. Moving the items around is a nightmare and a half. It's never worth it. While here we are just working with gravity, to be honest, and even if the processing section is bigger, the overall setup ends up being so much more compact. And it's more simple, I think. At least more simple and reasonable than my obsession with always using hoppers. Of course, I forgot to add glass on the other side. The one complaint that Dam had with this setup is that it leaves floating items. But while technically true, it doesn't dump all the contents of the barrel. If we turn the funnel around, just for the sake of this demonstration, we can add a couple of stacks into the barrel above, and you can see how the shafts stay here. The funnel doesn't have any more room to dump the next stack because there are still things in the way. So even if it leaves floating items, it doesn't spam them, so it should never lag the game. All it's left is to add the fancy signs. And thanks to Lightomatica, we don't need to rewrite everything we have on every sign, which is a game saver to me. I dislike editing signs. Of course, there can't be a proper workstation without the deployers and mechanical presses. These are always a must-have. Some of them will depend on what recipes the mod pack has. For example, I have one depot to force copper blocks to oxidize, but just because we happen to have recipes for it. Then we have the classic polishing, and also for casings, for waxing, a press for sheets and packing. Always very useful things, always very needed. I personally like having hoppers with barrels. It always looks good to me. And it gives a good place to put the sign if nothing else. Logistics aren't too hard here because all we're going to use are some chutes. Then we're going to add normal cable connectors for the chutes, then the filtered ones for the barrels. Tom's storage is rather simple for small things like these. We'll have to set the filters later on, but few filters is sometimes better than 20 belts. And I love logistics, but sometimes there are corners that I rather not have them occupy 10 times the size for no reason. Okay, we're doing good progress, are we not? Let's keep going. This is a simple section in comparison. We're just going to have a mechanical saw to process some blocks. And of course, the ever-needed precision mechanisms. There is little to say in this section other than I wish more processes were like the mechanical saw, where you can only process one at a time. Bulk processes make little sense to me and quickly causes imbalances. In my opinion anyway. While I also think that there aren't enough sequenced crafts in the game. Precision mechanisms are cool to make. Maybe not the part that you need to loop them, but in general, sequenced crafting is cool. They are pretty simple to set up though, since we are about done already. All we need to do is to add this little tom circuit at the back, so the mechanisms can loop and properly complete. And we cannot forget about the storage system. This isn't meant for massive amounts or even a lot of variety. This is just a little storage for the common things that we are going to need while building on the industrial area. We can always have dedicated sections for bigger amounts, like the iron and andesite from the previous episode. While the toolboxes are always a must in my opinion, we want the most common things to be stored in these, so we can quickly get any redstone component and create block that we need for building. Those really are a game changer. I do like having blocks that represent what's inside. It's a very clean way to show it, without having signs or item frames in front. And now for the most boring part. I don't mind the mechanical crafters, I think there are very fun uses for it. But the big one is only used a couple of times to make crushers, and then never again unless you make a new farm that also needs crushers. It is necessary to have, of course, but hardly ever used. While the millstone is less useful as the crusher, but at least it's still well used, especially for dyes and other small things. There is a surprising amount of recipes for the millstone. And, of course, the crushers. The ever-used crushers. We love them and we use them all the time. And boom! Another section just like that. If it feels like I'm skimping a bit over the building process, it's because the bra I was using this morning ended up giving me back pain, so I'm doing my best to finish this quickly, while trying to not rush it too much. And I know I could just upload it on Saturday instead, but I honestly prefer to stay on my schedule. It shouldn't take much longer to finish up this workstation. Which, by the way, we are making a bulk crafter. A mixer can process shapeless recipes, and sometimes it's quite a useful thing to have around. But of course it's rather easy to set up, just needs some hoppers to move the items around, because hoppers are cool. Gonna connect this chute with the barrel later, using Tom's storage as we have done before. And boom, everything else is already done too. The back pain is getting a bit much, so I used the cannon to place down the rest of things. Not what I had in mind, but as I always say, you gotta do the best you can with what you have. But because using the cannon is so easy, and I love this workstation so much, I made a second one at my overworld base. And yet another one at spawn, which also has a temple on top of it for added coolness. I know, I was complaining about back pain, but to be honest, the cannon did it on their own. I didn't have to place a block. But anyway, look at this beauty, isn't it cool? I already added all of the decorations that I wanted to add, and even left this section open so we can see the ocean a bit. It doesn't have too many cables and things at the back, so I thought a few clear views would be neat. But you haven't seen the bottom part yet. The shapeless crafter I did explained. It basically takes up to 3 inputs and crafts whatever we decide to put on the recipe. Pretty simple stuff. This one has a bit more going on though. It uses a blaze burner and also has an input for fluids, so it allows for a few more recipes. The back of it is also a bit more messy. There are many things going on in here. And I guess I'm too short to even show it. Let me go steal a block. So the drain takes the buckets of fluid that we add to the barrel and moves the fluids all the way to the basin. The empty buckets go to the hopper, which makes its way to the output chute. And the basin just does its things and crafts what we tell it to do. Then we have the fluids section, with the first spout having experience. You can basically sit here to fill up the spout, and it should repair any tool that is mending on it. It might sound weird to need this, but by playing normally, we don't really get that much experience in the industrial area. And to use the experience blocks or have a full-on experience farm, we might as well just use this because it will take the same amount of time to swap between tools. Anyway, we also have water and lava as you would expect. No mystery here, just take the buckets from the barrel, place the buckets at the depot, and it will fill them up with what we want. Nice and simple and for all the family. It does have a secondary function because I don't want to store buckets filled with water or whatever. I want to keep them all clean. So I made this thing that I'm also too short to show. Alright, so the buckets fall into the drain, with a filter to avoid empty buckets from going through, of course. Then the fluid will move along the pump and be stored here, while the empty bucket goes into the hopper to continue forward. But while the bucket continues, the observer will detect the hopper going through, so it will fire a signal. And that will cause the piston to extend for a moment. The pump is leaving sources of fluids in this position, so it cannot endlessly dump fluids. But as the piston extends, it will remove the fluid source, and thus making room for more fluids to be dumped. It's a nice little setup, simple, but still nice. But there is more because the empty bucket that was in the hopper will make it to the mechanical crafters. These are all connected, which means they share inventory. So when the bucket goes in, it's able to also go out at the top by the funnel. It's a little funny trick with mechanical crafters, quite useful for vertical logistics. Then it goes into the hopper chain and eventually makes it to the barrel. A little fun interaction to take home. You never know when you're gonna use one of these weird things. And that leaves us to the last portion. This is the most vanilla looking, but it's still stuff that we use either frequently or at any point in time. But I did added a couple funny things to it. Like this anvil. It has a deployer at the back that will try to place anvils all the time. So once we have stock in the barrel, it will just place them as soon as one of them breaks. A bit overkill, but a fun little thing to have. And the nether wart farm also might overkill because we likely not gonna brew anything in here. The only reason I made it is because of the fun contraption I made for it, and because I'm building ideas for farms that I have planned in the future. I think I'm going to explain this small amount of redstone before I show you the most satisfying thing ever. This is connected to the button on the other side, which I think I haven't shown, but assume it's there. It goes down to a couple of pulses, the first of which will fire after 2 ticks. That will activate the cart to move forward, but just for a bit, the extender is set to only 2 ticks. Then after 16 ticks from the second pulse, we fire the other extender for 8 ticks. That will move it forward. We wait for just a moment, and back it goes again. You have to see it, it's super satisfying. I love it, I love to click it every time. The harvest is fine, but the animation is what gets me. Look at the movement of the cart again. It's so smooth how it goes back and forth. I tried many speeds, but 16 ticks was the best result, and it had to be done with pulses. Directly from the button, it was a bit more clunky. So that's a new thing that I learned today. It's not super high-tech, or it will give us an insane amount of warts. But the chunks are loaded. We can honestly have an observer to fire it every once in a while and have some stacks in no time. But now, yes, this will have to be it. It was so much fun to design this, and if you wonder why it took so long and why do I care, it's because having a proper and quite compact to operate workstation saves you so much time. It's very well worth every minute I spent on it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the Fangies enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next episode.